So starting off, I'm going to start with the yellow right in the middle. So I'm going to let everything else bleed into it. Then I'm not going to worry too much with the pink. I'm going to use reds and those kind of things. I'm not going to, do exactly what we have there. Use my big brush and so my yellow, muddy yellow. Just going to go for it. And put a little bit of red into that. And then go into, I'm actually going to go kind of in an angle here, this way. I think I'm going to go this way. And then go into my blue. The reason I'm going into that orange, because I don't want it to chew into a green, right? So with that, letting that kind of this way. What's that?
What was about the green?
So it doesn't turn into a green. So if you don't have that blue into that yellow, to that green.
Oh, but it's okay to go into the orange.
Yes, because it has that little bit of that yellow, or into that red. I'm sorry. And a lot of more pigment than anything else, and then do the same thing, mimic exactly what you were doing down here. It's actually a little bit sexier down there, damn. And then go into my, again, blue. You can use manganese, you can use French Ultra, go a little darker. And really in this step, you really can't really screw up too much. I mean, you can, but just in...
Is that a challenge?
Well, yeah, I guess I should change how I phrase that. This really is just a wet on wet. We really just want to make sure that we get all these little interesting mixes as it comes down. And notice once I I started with the yellow here, then I worked my way to the top, and then I didn't mess with it anymore. I didn't go into it again, and I started here and I worked my way down. I want to have that nice, clean colors in here, right? I don't want too much of these strokes on top, because if I, like you see, my brush is a little bit too wet, and so all of a sudden I see this little bit of this blooming area here, a little bit here, but it's not really going to matter too much because I'm gonna glaze over with this little mountain range here, and I'm just kind of setting things up for like a heaviness here. And notice I didn't fill the whole thing up. I went left to right, and I left little white areas, which I need to. I didn't, but it didn't bother me. Those can be reflections from the sky, or from just some light. Adding a little bit more texture, a little bit of movement in there. I'm not looking for an exact flat area. So notice how fast that took me, right? And I'm just letting the colors naturally kind of mix, create interesting things in here, And then once I'm happy with how I'm pretty happy where it's at right now. I'm going to lay it flat. And laying it flat, the colors will stop moving one direction or the other.
So what if I really wanted the pink because I like it?
We don't have pink.
Okay.
So does that answer that question?
Yes.
All right, so now we've got the background. Now we're going to work on the middle ground, which is going to be our mountain range here. It's roughly going to go right here. And so, again, we're going right through the whole thing, so we're going to glaze over. It's going to be more of a purple. So I'm going to go ahead and mix some of my red, some of my blue. And you're going for not too dark of a value. Maybe a little bit of that manganese there. A little bit richer value here. That worked just fine. And again, a little bit of that. And there is a little bit of a darker kind of silhouette there of something. So I'm going to, before this dries, just grab a little bit of blue and just very quickly just lay that down. I don't want to make it too strong, just indication of something else there. All right, at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring some of those values, some of that purple into my water a little bit. And since we're looking, those mountains are pretty far away, I'm going to go ahead and make them a little bit lighter and a little bit smaller. Right, so you don't want to make huge waves in the background, all of a sudden everything be pushed forward. So I'm going to use the edge of my brush here, or the tip of my brush, and I'm just going to make just a couple, a little something, just I'm not trying to do anything too spectacular. It's just just adding a little bit of texture, a little bit of movement. And I'm not putting I'm not putting a lot of, these long lines filling up the whole thing. I want our eye just to see a couple of these waves here. And also notice that I'm standing. Just a little bit here and there. I'm going to grab a little bit more of my blue or my purple. That value, I guess I'm bringing some of that middle ground into my foreground. Now I'm going to do some larger strokes here, going right over my boat, because that boat's going to be very dark. Just a couple. Notice waves are always tricky, honest. I mean, waves to me has always been, water and just in general, have always been not the easiest thing to paint for me. That's good. So again, we're looking at that. I can build on top of that a little bit later once it dries a little bit. So I put the middle ground, right, and then I brought some of those purples into my foreground. As I'm moving forward, they're getting larger and larger, have that sense of depth, right? Now, this next step here, do you think you guys want to start with that and then go the next step before? Okay, let's do that. Okay, break. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a dark value. Nice thing about these kind of paintings that we can use like a dark purple, just less water, more pigment, and just put a little bit of sepia in there. So I'm going to go ahead and just, I was going to put, yeah, that's fine. Whatever I just said, it all made sense in here. So I'm going to start with just using my sepia and my French ultramarine blue to create my complex black. And then I'm going to add just a tad of red in there just to warm it up a tad bit. Nice dark color. All right. So now, center the cross and begin. So I'm just going to put in the boat here, using again tip of the brush, not being too carried away with all the details and the party goers on the boat. You can see there's like some guys there, and you're like, he has a drink in his hand and he's talking to a pretty lady all of a sudden. Dark. I'm not talking too much because it's really going to concentrate when you're doing these little. Since I don't really paint too many boats, I don't know, half the stuff's on that thing. So it's good to have some shape correct at least. Bring some of this down here. Make sure you have a nice big puddle of color. Nice and dark. And yes, you can be a little bit more precise in how you can be, oh, I really want to sit down and really want to, get the ruler out and the protractor. And that's really up to you. I mean, I'll mock you when you do it, but it's really up to you. So, let's see. So again, put another one here.
It's like Johnny Depp's just ready to step right off it.
That's right. A little Jack Sparrow action going. So. See, there's something going on here. I'm going to grab my, you can use a smaller brush. I'm just going to use my liner brush. And then go ahead and put in a couple of these little itty bitty. I'm not sure half this stuff is going, it's like, it's stuff. Whatever. I don't know what that stuff is. There's another, whatever the hell that thing is, that thing there. And there's like little things going on here. That's ugly, but you can get the feeling of I'm just creating. I'm going to put this guy in there. A little lighter. Giant mast. The boat. There's the right there, Gilligan driving. And then we'll put this little bit of water and just kind of drag this down. The same thing here. It's more of a solid shape. Again, solid shape. Mimicking what's reflecting on the, just going to be that mast. Darker. And then I'll go use some, I like to use my opaques, like have I talked about them? Yeah. I got some opaques here, some reds, cad red, very dark values, very opaque. Put a couple little, I don't know, lights or something. One light on there like that. And then maybe grab my white. Thank you. And I use white right out of the tube. Little something there. And I'll put a flag on there. Flag ready? Flag, there you go. One here, some little reflections, little hidden light hitting in some of these little areas. And you do see a little bit of, like, put little lines in here. Right there. Actually, I think I want that flag to be red, so there you go, a little red flag. So just a little pop of color. And then last but not least, the signature. That stops me from painting. So that's it. That's it, folks. Does that make sense? Like, what the hell did he do?